This past weekend, I was on a conference here in the US. Well, it actually was global for Black women wanting to travel. Well, this one is more specific Black women who want to get out of the United States. So it's more of a confirmation, but the people that are doing it, they're more organized than I am. So they one of them is ex-military, so she knows how to get things done. Yeah, but it's been enjoyable. Their focus was making money, Black women making money so that they could travel and move abroad. Some of them are doing traveling, which I guess is part of it, but a lot of them are just they want to travel so they can figure out where they want to live outside of the US.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. So how you got?
Well, that's a huge task for many.
It is. It's
yeah, it's a huge task for many because it comes with a change of mentality and mindset,
yes.
Re-educating yourself because a whole lot of what have been taught, we still walk around with it. Our suitcase is so heavy with it,
Yes.
And it impedes even finding peace because we walk around with all this medication. Most people need a good reset,
Yes.
like a blank slate.
Yes.
Kind of like a blank slate. And readapting to nature, readapting to the simple way of life. Because it's usually what have gotten us this far hasn't really worked for us. And we have to realize it hasn't worked for us. Many would have worked so many decades and they come to an age where they're now slowing down. But what you ask yourself, what have you worked for? Because your pension can't allow you comfortable living, your social security, all these things that they put in your head is your safeguard when you get old. You get old and you're like, they've really told me a whole heap of bullshit,
Yes, absolutely.
So, so how do we then reconfigure our minds that, hey, all that hasn't served us well?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, we gotta throw out some of the things that haven't worked well and keep some of those that have worked well. Move along to learn new things, and keep an open mind, And what I've experienced over the years is that everyone wants someone to dominate and be superior over, which really doesn't spell well. And then we often cry, hey, we're not well received, but we must look within at the end of the day and see what is it that we're projecting that comes back to us.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's one thing that I kind of found out the hard way. when I left, I've been, and I don't know if we necessarily got into it. I just, kind of grew up with a lot of anger. And, constantly, kind of battling and fighting against my environment and the people around me. And so I had gotten very defensive. And so when I came to, before I came to you, I was in Mexico. I came down to Cancun with this group of women. Matter of fact, it was the same group of women. They had a meet up in Cancun, so I went down there, but when I was around them, everything was going. But when I wasn't around them, I was getting this very interesting feedback from other people. And these are people that didn't know me; they didn't know nothing about me. But I was getting a very adversarial pushback, and it kind of threw me back. I mean, I had probably been there for maybe about a week before I came to see you. And the the feedback I was getting people, I had to really, the time frame that I was back in my room, I was in an Airbnb. The time frame that I was back in my room, I had to really start, asking myself, why are people reacting to me like this? These people don't know me. And I had to really, in that time frame, from a few days after I got to Mexico till I'm sure it was after I left from your place, it was like, okay, Deborah, what kind of vibes are you putting out to these people? What kind of that was very rude to me, awakening. It was like, oh, I'm putting out these, get away from me vibes, just angry and I had to really just, oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. And when I was there and we were talking about you were talking about intentions, and I'm trying to think, intentions that you put out, I guess spirituality or intentions that you put out. And when you said it, it dawned on me like, okay, I really need to calm down. I need to, everybody's not my enemy. Everybody's not out trying to get to me. And it was very interesting. Oh, let me go. I didn't go through the introductions because I intend on posting this on my channel. All right, my name is Deborah Bonaparte. I'm with the Radical Health Series. I'm excited. My series is about allowing Black women to heal through radical means. And the radical means don't necessarily needs to be the reaction. The result can be radical, and it doesn't have to be that much of a, it could be a simple push. And so my guest today is, you want me to call me Owani?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Well, and my guest today is Owani Melanie Martez, and she's going to tell you a little bit about herself.
So good afternoon, everyone, and all listeners. I am Owani, proprietor of Palmetto Grove Eco-Cultural and Fishing Lodge, and it's cultural establishment indigenous to make sure that we reclaim and maintain our cultural legacy that our forefathers would have left for us, having fought from the Caribbean, exiled on to Central America over 200 plus years ago, which is the Black Carib culture, known now as the Garifuna culture.
Okay.
So as we do business, it's also a passion of mine. And I've come over years to learn that you cannot keep what is it that you're not mentally, physically, and spiritually ready for. So you've got to prepare yourself, which involves healing.
All right, nice. All right, I got a couple of questions here, not many. A lot of us just, we're just gonna have a conversation. But I wanted to kind of introduce my audience and audience to be, I guess it would be a more appropriate term, about what you're doing. Well, let me tell everybody how I got to meet you. I was in Mexico, and I was looking up things to do because I wanted some different things to do.
But like I said, I'm very proud of you, and what you've done is all part of healing, just the ability to be able to leave a known environment, to venture off into the unknown, and doing things that you've never done before. It gives other people hope. We take it for granted when we're able to do that, but there are many other people that have not reached that degree of healing. So while there might be others that are before you, there are others also behind you. So we must all consider that we are in a very unique space all the time, not to be comparing ourselves to others, not to pressure ourselves for what we haven't yet achieved or what we're yet to achieve, or what we've done. So it's always just being able to be grateful for where we are at this point in time in life. Help those that we can help, that we've come this far and have learned and gained so much knowledge that we can assist, and look up to those who path we walk in that are before us. So we're always in a unique space and we must make much of it.
Yeah. No, I try. I try. I had but I think I might have told you I had an accident in 2019, in a car accident. I just decided I have one life to live, and I need to start focusing on things that I want to do. And I've always wanted to travel since I was a young girl. And so I did. Before I came to see you in Belize and Mexico, I went over the year before. I went over to Tanzania, and that was. I went over there as part of a group, but I kind of went ahead because I found out about Serengeti. That I didn't really. I looked on the map. I looked on the map to try to see where all these cities were, and when I saw Arusha, Tanzania, I was like, "Is that the Serengeti?" And that's been on my bucket list since I've been like 12, 13 years old. So that's been over 40 years. And I was like, I'm going to that. So we have a family friend who's a travel agent. So I called her and told her I want that. So, and she arranged for me to go over there for that safari and then meet up with the group when they came over there. So I started off over there by myself. But it was, that was the probably of a lifetime, I would say. Just being on that safari and seeing the animals, and I ended up being the only one. And interesting, I ended up being the only one. I mean, like, it kind of reminded me when I came to you. I ended up being the only one on this journey.
You had a great experience.
Yes.
Personalized.
Yes. The guide that I had, what it was is people had not started traveling again from COVID.
Yeah.
And I remember asking him on the trip, we're in the Jeep in the safari, and I asked him about that, and I said, he said, we've only had one, I think he said 1.1 million people. And I was like,
only.
Yeah, only. And I said, only? And he said, yes, by this time we would have 5.5 million people. I was like, well, he said, man, things are really bad. I think they got their salaries. A lot of them had got laid off. Their salaries got cut in half. They minimized their workload. In order for
like
them,
everywhere.
Yes.
Like everywhere else, yeah.
Yeah, their venture, their safari ventures supply, if I'm not mistaken, I think I heard it was something like 65 or 70% of the whole country
economy.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's up there. So it's, that was serious. But I enjoyed myself on that very much, thoroughly. Well, let's talk about your place. Okay. First, so let me ask, how have you and your father been doing?
He's doing good.
Okay.
Business been picking up. In life, you lose some, you win some. So we've had a few incidents here and there. But we're recuperating. So we lost the kitchen due to an accident. But resilient as we may, we're rebuilding. And hopefully by the end of the month, we should have it up back and running for the beginning of this season, tourism season.
Okay.
So one bit at a time. We're blessed enough to be able to hold on. I always tell people, as an indigenous person and doing this type of business and the landscape we're in, where indigenous people are just used and thrown away and
Yeah.
discarded, and displaced,
Mm-hmm.
I pride myself and leading my family through a path whereby we don't allow that to happen.
Nice.
Many people choose the easy route of sometimes taking money, taking favors that later costs indigenous people their whole life, their whole land.
No.
I am
Yeah.
one that for my life I've always chosen the right path, which sometimes can be the most difficult part. But the end result can be wonderful when it is that you're empowered, you're resilient, you're self-sustaining, and as such, that breeds freedom,
Right.
freedom to be able to advocate for your rights, freedom to advocate um, in truth and
Mm-hmm.
without compromise, right? So for me, I've always believed that, you know what, if our ancestors did it
Mm-hmm.
so many decades, so many centuries ago, and they had left behind wealth in terms of farming, fishing, very much a whole lot of skills that
Yes.
allowed us sustainability, then we can do it. One thing I've learned to discuss is indigenous and local people becoming beggars. We have diminished, a lot of indigenous communities and people have diminished themselves to beggars.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's something that must stop, and we must embrace the kings, the queens, the princess, the prince, although these are also European terms. But the 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 mightiness in us, we
Mm-hmm.
are great people,
Yeah.
and we must embrace our greatness.
Right.
We must stop give away our power. That's something we must stop, and it must be stopped as soon as we can. Um,
Right.
so for us, you hardly see us asking for anything, because the idea of our movement and project is that we can do it. We can do it. Yes, we appreciate all the assistance that may come around from time to time,
Mm-hmm.
but we can do it. Together we can. And
Right.
with that effort, we work towards it as a family, and we're able to safely say that we're back rebuilding, um, and getting back there on our feet, no?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So was that your major kitchen that?
So that was the secondary kitchen. So it
Okay.
was a secondary kitchen. But again, in every mishap, there are opportunities. So we take the
Yes.
opportunity to relocate the kitchen to a
Okay.
better spot,
Oh, nice.
and
Okay.
even have a better construction of the kitchen.
Nice.
So
Nice.
it should be
Okay.
much more comfortable, much more cooler, and the aesthetics will be good.
Nice. Nice. Okay. Okay. Yeah. No, oh, something that you said. Um, I guess one of the things that that was one of the things that I noticed when I was there in Belize, and it's not uncommon to what I see here in the States, especially in your bigger cities, and one thing that I realized in my life, and I think a lot of people have, if they study enough and and sometimes you have to get away from it to notice it. We were transported here through the Atlantic slave trade for our working skills. And over the centuries and stuff like that, the mental degradation for us to accept the notion that we're not good enough, or our working skills are not honored, that has to come from a very basic level of destroying the mindset. Because as you look at it, what we do and what we've managed to do over the centuries of survival is just that: the working of the land, being able to work, being able to feed ourselves, here in the United States, there's a chart of, and I think I took a picture. I do have a picture of it on my camera. There's just one chart of all of the inventions that Black people have made. And it's like, and I'm sure those inventions are not, these are just ones by Black Americans. I'm sure these inventions are Black people all over the world, digital pieces all over the world have these inventions of some kind to ease the suffering and hard work that we've been relegated to in a lot of these places. The fact that Black people have accepted this level of, begging, as you would call it, or suffering, and not realizing that, the whole concept of money is a barter. It's a tool. They don't have to, say, these, what's the word I want to say? Non-Indigenous people. The fact that they don't give them cash, that doesn't mean that they don't have food available. Especially in places like Belize, it's like a lot of, food is falling off the trees. They have food available. Now the one thing that I've noticed that in Tanzania, and I'm doing this comparison only because Tanzania is also very food growing, very much a food growing country. They have all kind of fruit and stuff growing and falling off the trees. The Maasai tribe they're calling them keepers. I told a guy I would get it correct. Keepers of the livestock. And so they're self-sufficient. But their political policies are such that foreigners they're
categorized as poor.
Yes, but they are to a point, but they're part of their political policies is that only natives can have land and produce the vegetation from that land. And I didn't necessarily notice that in Belize. But I'm sure even in Tanzania, there's other Arabs and have been over there for centuries, and white people have been there for a long time, but they don't control a lot of the land. A lot of the stuff has been naturalized. So they've regained control.
Which is good.
Yeah. And that's the one thing that I noticed, that Belize is kind of, hopefully they'll get it together before they lose a lot more. But for me being here in the United States and seeing how a lot of this gentrification gets started in these areas, and then a lot of it gets started from indoctrination at such a young age.
Oh yeah,
it's like,
that's true.
And
again, you said it right, from such a young age, but that's where indigenous naivety must just come to an end, because many of these indigenous communities operates from a point of view that the outsider share similar values, and they don't. And I always go to explain that a friend for an indigenous person is a friend to the end. We will eat, we will sleep, we will drink, we'll take care of each other. If you're sick, I'm there to take care of you. You return the favor, we never go unattended. You have people who are really your true supporters. And this is our thing. Unlike in the capitalist environment, your friendship is as good as your usefulness. Your usefulness comes to an end, and so is your friendship, So, and we see that here. So, like in case of Hopkins, where I reside, it's like when it first started, like you mentioned, it starts from very minute things, very, very small things, but it adds up. It gets magnified over a short period of time, more than you would ever expect it to. And I can see the transition of Hopkins from where it was 20 years ago, when we had almost 80% Garifuna, Black indigenous in the community, when we only had about 2 resorts, compared to now, where we're having much more foreigners owning beachfront properties. And having, I'd say, 90% economic and political influence. So while it is that we might have a local government with local faces in the community, they don't have any power. They are powerless. They're given the pittance of power, but they are so happy that they have a semblance of power. There's no power. 90 to 95% of that power is held by people, foreigners, total strangers, and we don't understand. And for that 5%, we're quarreling, we're fighting among ourselves, we're still disrespecting each other. It doesn't lend itself for us even getting out of the crab bucket.
Right.
But a lot of people don't see that and don't realize that you'll soon be taken over in about another 2 years or a year. And we're here just blind to it, just oblivious.
Which is
I see how they start with children. So you get all these aids, and when you're getting these aid, it's like a whole lot of non-Black coming to your assistance. So you automatically equate that the only people who can help you is not your own. It has to be a foreign entity coming to save you.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, this shit is deep. The psychological effect of what you're doing, incorporating these foreign volunteers into your school to teach Christianity, to take out of your teaching time. This is just BS, if you ask me.
It is.
And it's deep psychological training that is not in the best benefit of indigenous people.
Right.
But as a conscious person trying to emit this and share this with my community, they look at you as if though, hey, you're full of hate. Hey, you're full of you're just discriminatory. I'm like, no, you're racist. No, I am not. I love people.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we must understand we all have our souls.
Yes.
We all have our spirit.
Yeah.
And it comes, it's our true being. It
Right.
speaks
It
volumes
is.
if you're to listen to it versus the physical being that we're seeing. The physical being can pretend for you, really pretend, you know. But when you listen to the soul, the spirit being,
right,
it speaks a language that you cannot mask.
right.
And
Yep.
that's what we're not doing. And as indigenous people, we have the ability, we have the innate ability to do that, but that in itself as well has been taken away.
It's been attacked.
Revamped away from us.
Yeah.
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 Right?
Yeah.
So we haven't been able to develop that skill. And it's hurting us because we're analyzing people from face value. And we're like, okay, I can give you many stories of foreigners who came to Hopkins and they were so friendly with the villagers, you know?
Yeah.
They would buy them beers, they would befriend them to work with them, and they would mask themselves for being poor. And they would get the land for very little or nothing. Then they stay around pretending to be poor for years, and all of a sudden you see this, but you're poor. So how did you get
You said all of a sudden
the
you see what?
resources
You
in
broke, hold on,
a
you
year
broke
or
it.
two?
You said all of a sudden you see what?
Big concrete buildings going up.
Yes, 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 yes.
Right? You see big concrete buildings going up that are then used for bed and breakfast, Airbnbs, for lodges, for resorts, you know.
Yes.
But this was from an individual who professed not to have any resources. So
right.
the native would have sold the land for very little or actually give it to them sometimes, you know,
Yes.
as a
Yes.
friendly gesture.
Yes.
And
Wow.
these people don't have heart because as soon as they get what they want, they then unfriend the native and put up cement walls. So the native is welcome to land that was his or hers, you know?
Right.
And I'm like, so when did this all happen? You know? But it just goes to show you that people don't change overnight. And it's our duty to actually be very, very observant, you know?
Yes.
Learn to read people in order to make better judgment and better decisions for ourselves. It's self-preservation is pretty much the first law of nature.
Yes.
So
yes.
Why are we fooled that preserving self, preserving our people, that we're termed in all this negative, with all these negative adjectives, you know?
Right. Yeah. And it's what
when the other races do it.
And it's what, and it's a lot of, it's what they teach in schools.
Oh yeah.
Is the physical exposure. It's like one of the big things with Christianity when we were younger is and that was one of the issues that I have with them. I'll be honest, I got suspended from school when I was in the 4th grade because it was what they were telling us and what they were doing were 2 different things. You know, they're telling us about, oh gosh, they're telling us about showing us a picture, I should say, of what Jesus looked like. But in the book, in the Bible, it still says, unless they've changed that too, feet of gold and hair of wool.
Hair of wool.
And I remember asking a teacher about it in a religious class, and her response was, what difference does it make? And as I've gotten older, I realize there is a difference because it does make a difference. Representation matters. If you have this picture of Jesus, I'm putting it in quotes, of Jesus on the wall to a child who's not old enough to read. They're not reading, they barely know how to talk. You know, when they finally figure out how to read and how to talk, the indoctrination of this picture, and years later I found out it's not it's not Jesus at all, it's somebody's relative. And but the years of that being exposed to that on a psychological level is telling them that they're not good enough. And so it starts. And then when I was on the bus coming on my way to you, and we were driving through the capital, Belmopan, I think it's called. When we were driving through the capital of Belize.
Yes.
And I remember seeing it was a big billboard. It was a white, I saw one with a white lady and one with a white guy. And before I even got to you, and that made, because Belize City to me was a very I'll put it like this, was not a good experience for me. It was an okay experience. I didn't feel, well, yes, I did. I did feel a little uncomfortable because there were young groups of gangs that I passed through on my way to get to you still there?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there was a group of girl gang that I had to walk through on my way to a restaurant. And I remember thinking when I was walking, I was like, I feel like I'm walking to Chicago. I feel like I'm in Detroit, walking through gang to get to school. And it was very, and the clothes that they were wearing was not what I was expecting of an indigenous people. They're very westernized clothes. They were cussing, you know, the level of I would call it, and they it's a toughness that they're supposing, and really they're scared. And I understand. It appears like they're so tough and all of this stuff. And I realized over the years that they were scared. They didn't know me. They were scared of, even though I was older, they were scared of me. They were, you know, what I call that alpha level of uncomfortableness was coming off. So, but you know, by the time a place gets to where they have posters of, you know, foreigners, non-indigenous people on their signs, you know, English, and that, well, English is the language there, but more of a signage of outside people it's gotten to that, mainly the posters, the signage, that gets you to a tipping point.
Well,
almost where
well, I always say, the world is multiracial, you know, and we're all human beings after all, right?
Yes, we
but
are.
my point, my opinion is, and my belief is, why try to dim others' light in order for you to be able to shine?
I agree.
You know,
I agree.
And I say that because we can all coexist without having to dim each other's light.
I agree.
We all bring something unique to the table.
We do.
But remember, it's the duty of the master to divide and conquer. So instead of magnifying our collective and our similarities, they tend to magnify our differences, you know, and pit us against each other. So I always, well, my family is a very vibrant political family. I choose not to be involved in politics because it's again a divide and conquer strategy. So I once had that aspiration of becoming political, and a good brother of mine sat me down one day and he's like, do you want to be political? Do you really want to? I'm like, yes, I want to change the world. And he's like, can you point out a politician for me that's good, that has integrity?
Wow.
And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'm not seeing any. Okay, so do you still want to be one? And he's like, you know what? You can change the world just doing what you do best. And
yes,
try to heal yourself. Get to
yeah,
know you. Magnify the greatness that you are, and it will radiate. You
yes,
know, that
yes.
you don't need to be given a space by your colonial master to be able to serve your people.
Nice. Very
So
nice. Yes.
my view of leadership has changed since then. And as such, I'm no longer chasing that colonial thought of leadership, whereby you need that platform to be able to be a leader, you know?
Nice.
And
Nice.
but again, we're constantly pitted against each other. So there is a need for us to be able to more magnify our similarities and work in unison for the greater good and greater objective. Belize was built on the backs of indigenous people and being the Creole, the Garifuna, the Mayas. You know, Belize was built on these people's back and blood and sweat and tears. But now it's now reconfigured and being Latinized. And as such, systematically, the indigenous and the Black people, the Afro descendants, are being marginalized in order to magnify the Latinos, you know? I don't think that's necessary, creating chaos, you know?
Yes. Yes.
Give the Black people, give the Afro descendants and the indigenous together happily, you know? But when you're systematically magnifying and creating problems like fueling issues, fueling all the not so positive things that Black people and indigenous people are doing and are going through, all these domestic violence, all these drinking, these alcoholism, all these things. When you see a picture, you see an indigenous person, you see a Black person. When you see workers or something good, it's some other person, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I believe, again, it's a systematic
It is.
miseducation.
That's the
So
same.
we
That's the
must
same
be
thing they do
cognizant.
here. That's the same
But
thing we do. So we're, I mean, the group that I'm with, we're basically we're done with it. It's just like we're not playing with that anymore. You know, let me ask you this. Because I used to be pretty active in this group, and I'm still a little active with the UNIA, ACL. I think I'd asked you about it. Either I asked you or your father about it.
Yeah, you did ask me.
Oh, okay. And I remember at one time they were saying that Marcus Garvey was very he had a relationship with, I guess, the then president of Belize. And
oh yeah,
one of the things they were talking
there was a
about
movement here in Belize. There was a movement here in Belize.
Yeah, yeah.
Of strong Black people.
Okay. Yeah, because
yes.
they were saying that we had like a connection, or I'm trying to remember the exact wordage, that our membership in the organization meant that we could come to Belize, that we could get land. It would be easier for us to get land there as long as we stayed and helped cultivate the land.
But I believe that all that needs to be researched. And there are some members of the Afro indigenous movement that is connected as well with branches from all over the world that are reigniting
Okay.
this movement, you know.
Okay.
I know a brother who lives not too far from here. He would be able to shed more light on that.
Okay.
He has a whole lot of information on that.
Okay.
Because again, I think we have given up our power. There are so many of us, so many of Black leadership who have actually just surrendered and given up the power, the wealth that their forefathers would have fought for and
Yeah.
left for them, you
Yeah.
know. Just
They don't
in
realize the value of the land. I mean, paper
just in
money can only pay
exchange
for
for
so
grants.
much. And they
Yeah, but they do this just in exchange for grants, just for free grants and for favors, you know.
yeah, yeah.
They actually give away what is really valuable
Yeah, yeah.
to get very little or nothing in return, you
Yes,
know.
yes. Yeah,
It doesn't
one
make
of the
sense.
things that I saw in Tanzania was it was several projects, probably more so in Dar es Salaam, the capital. They were like buildings that were, and it processes their learning, trying to get away from sun in your face.
Yes, yes,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's better.
Yeah, no, I'm facing the window. The window's in front of me to get the
Yeah,
sunlight.
the sun is setting right in my face.
Yeah, yeah. But no,
Yeah, that this is better.
but yeah, no, but they were buildings that had been promised in exchange for different governments and stuff that came down. Sure, private companies in different countries had promised them XYZ if they gave them ABC, whatever it was, land to build and stuff like that. And there were a couple of hospitals and schools at these places that they were going to build. And once they got the money or the resource that they need, they stopped in the middle of their building. It was several buildings that were half built and had been half built for years. I mean, just to the point of dilapidation again, where
Yep.
they whoever the private company is or the government or whoever foreign company or government got what they needed and booked. And and it's probably that's the downside of this. The whole thing is you give up so much, and we're unfortunately here in the US, we're finally starting to realize in the last probably for Black people, probably I'll put it like this, on a notable scale. A lot of people are starting to realize, a lot of Black people are starting to realize this whole thing with NGOs, a lot of these government grants and stuff like that it's not, and it wasn't meant for indigenous people.
Yeah, that's true.
It's
That's
a
so true.
theft. It's a theft of that's what it is. It's
Legal yeah, legal
stealing.
stealing. Yeah,
It
that's for
is.
sure. But again, we go back to healing. And one thing I've come to learn in my journey is that if you're leading someone from a space of trauma that has not been healed, then the end result is not is nothing good, you know, because
Yeah, yeah,
you're leading from an empty space. And
yes, it is.
a friend of mine, what I was so I used to volunteer. I did a whole lot of projects because I actually wanted better for my people. I always want better for my people.
Right.
But then you reach a stage where sometimes you're forced to reckon with your real reasoning, and it is that you want or behave in such a manner, and what drives that desire. So of mine told me, you're good. You love your people. You want to do things for them, but is it really for them or for you?
Right.
And I'm
Right.
like, what the hell are you talking about? Don't you hear me? It's for them. But I often take the opportunity to listen and then I'll reflect, you know.
Yes. Yes.
And when I sat down and I went through this raw, truthful moment with myself, I'm like, how he said it, you know? But it it really allowed me to really evaluate myself and what I was doing. And yes, after evaluating what I was doing, it was really from a space of ego, you know, and not so much of a healthy space. So I had to deal with that over the years and overcome that over the years. Many of us think as well that we should be giving our shirts off our backs, and that's what makes us heroes. Does it really make you a hero or or otherwise? You know,
Right.
why are you taking your shirt off? Right?
Right.
And I look around and so many people are so passionate about their culture, different things, but I often see how that passion is used as a weapon against them and they don't realize it. Right? So you have leaders who often manipulate you because you are not fully in control of your being. You're still operating from that space of trauma. So if you feel that you're, say for instance, if you feel that you're disliked, you might volunteer for them to like you.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah.
So,
yeah.
You're like, if I volunteer and work with my people, they will like me more. But you later realize that that is not necessarily so, right? But then what helps me most was being able to just meditate and be true to myself. It's like, okay, why am I really doing this? And again, like I said, it was really from an unhealthy space. So I had to clear that space. It took me some years to clear that space, right? And then I was able to reconfigure how I see things and revision how I would like to serve my people from a healthier space, you know? And it looks differently. It feels differently when it is that you're helping from more of a healthier space than an unhealthy space. So when you're working from a healthy space, no one can manipulate you into guilt.
Right.
You know?
Right.
When you're working from an unhealthy space, your no becomes guilt, right? And your no or non-action might be for various reasons, but then you go through a guilt session because you haven't yet worked on your trauma, your unhealthy spots. Right. So I've learned that after healing, you become so powerful that you can stand by and don't let people determine your reaction or action to anything that they do. It's like, okay, I choose to help. And if I choose to help, this is what I'm going to do. If I don't want to do it, I won't do it. And if it doesn't ring true to my value, you can't force me to do it, you know? And I don't feel guilty. I'll tell you plain and straight. I'm not, hey, you can't run me through that mill. You can't. You're gonna dead trying running me through that mill. you know?
Right, right.
So, but it's because I am comfortable with what I want to contribute to my people, how I would like to do it. I am open to their suggestion as to what works well for them, but
Right.
is also cognizant that what they think might work well for them is not always what will work well for them. Right?
Wow.
So that's the that's the way I have been able to maintain a healthy balance
Nice,
doing what
nice.
I do.
So let me ask
And
you, and I don't know if necessarily y'all have access. I guess you probably would if you're English speaking country. Did you, during your process of healing, um, self reflections, was there any influence on it? Did you read something? Did you, um, you know, I don't know if I know for me, a big part of my spiritual healing came when I was able to separate religion from spirituality.
oh
Um,
yes,
and that,
definitely.
yes, yes. So that
Yep,
was
it
that
did.
was the beginning of a lot of my being able
Yes.
to process better. But was that part of your um, healing process, or did you was what was the aside from realizing what this lady said to you about why are you volunteering? I guess I'm trying to figure out how to word it. What helped you along the way?
Well, for me, growing up, I was a child that always, for some reason, always looked at life differently. I grew up in a community among people who were tolerant of a whole lot of things that weren't good. It wasn't conducive to best living, right?
You said in your
So it
family or your community?
in my family and community.
Okay, okay.
So, like for instance, in my family, there would have been abuses, sexual abuse,
Mm,
physical abuse. Also in the community, it's rampant. You know, you'll find domestic abuse. A lot of the domestic abuse was nonverbal, but it was also brutal. You know
yeah, yeah,
that that
yeah. I know
you
about that.
actually
Hmm.
yeah, you actually saw women who were at their lowest. They had very low self-esteem. These were talented women, but they had very low self-esteem.
Hmm.
And again, it's
It
generational.
is.
It's generational that it's been happening for generation, and it
Yes,
has been normalized.
yes,
And I'm like, what? How
yeah,
can people normalize this? And for
exactly.
me, it repels.
Mm,
It's nothing I want to be a part of. I've always seen in my
nice.
community where there were men who really and truly never knew how to treat their partners, live with them
Right.
productively,
Yes,
in a
yes,
healthy manner. The women were always brutally just done.
yeah,
And I
yes.
took it why when I got older to ask them why. And they're like, they had several different reasons. Still doesn't make sense to me, but again makes sense. And I'm like, I'm not going through this. So from I was growing up
Nice,
in the village,
nice.
I was like, nope, I'm not going through this. I'm not gonna do this.
Okay, okay.
So I grew up with that. I was telling myself that from I was like 7. No, we're not gonna do this, right?
Nice, nice.
But life has its own plans for us. So because of all the abuse and the trauma, you go about life responding to things in a very unhealthy manner, which I was
Yes,
guilty of,
yes,
right?
yes.
So, like everybody else, I was guilty of it too.
Yeah, yeah.
And that led me into a very abusive relationship.
Okay.
And I stayed in that relationship for 10 years.
Okay.
And one thing I learned from that, you cannot make anyone what they don't want to make themselves.
Exactly.
You can't wish for people what they don't want for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't, it doesn't matter how hard you work, it won't help because they first need to see themselves
Right.
honorable enough
Yes.
to be the recipient of goodness.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
So I tried my whole 10 years trying to for what I think was good to do good. But then my definition of good might not have been the person's good. Right? Definition of good, right?
Right,
And
right.
I'm not perfect. So from time to time, remember, I was still dealing with my own trauma too. So my response at that time might not have always been the best too.
Okay. Okay.
So I'll be honest and frank about it because we all go through that stage, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
I decided I will just do away with that. And that's when I learned that society condones the domestic abuser.
Yes,
And
they
you
do.
gotta be very
I,
strong.
yes.
Absolutely very strong to
Yes.
be to come out of a domestic violence, abuse, and home alive.
Yes. Yes.
And strive from
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Right? The police, I went to the police, they condoned it. I went to the magistrate, they condoned it. I went to my family, they condoned it, whether it was by omission, admission, they condoned it.
Yeah.
You
Pretending like
know,
they didn't see it or hear it.
and one spell, my aunt, I loved her so dearly. She was like, "Why don't you stay?" I'm like, and she was like alluding to the fact that I had a good house, a house, not a home. I had a good house at my age because I was a banker then. So I had a good house, a pretty yard, almost picket fenced, and two lovely kids. And so this was like a perfect glass family. You know, I'm like, okay, nope, that's not making sense. If you're
Right.
not happy, why are you here? You know,
Right.
there must be something greater than this that you're here on earth for, not for this, you know. So I decided, you know what, I'll just cut everyone off. All the ones that weren't supporting a healthier life will be cut off.
So you want no contact?
No contact.
No.
Absolutely none.
Nice, nice.
None.
Powerful.
So I went no contact for about a year and a half, maybe two. Okay. No contact. The only persons who would have had direct access to me was my dad, because I was staying at our old business location and building it up at the same time while I was going through this ordeal, and my best friend. So they were the only ones who had direct contact with me.
Wow.
Because you just had to cleanse your environment.
Yes.
And be determined that people's emotions, people's opinion didn't matter about your life.
Right.
I had to choose what I felt was best for me. I had to choose where my soul was leading me. After all, my name is Soul, right? So I choose.
Your name is what?
And again,
you said your name is Soul?
Soul. Yeah.
Is that what Iwani means?
Yeah.
Soul? Oh,
yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. So I choose to follow my name, right? And my calling. And I choose to do that about a year before I separated because my name wasn't Owani then. I went through high school with the name Irvani. So Irvani sounded very pretty, but had no meaning. And so was my life. I looked good from the outside, but I was a mess from the inside.
Okay.
So I was a reflection of my name. I was a reflection of my name. And then I decided, you know what? One day I sat home and I gotta change my name. I gotta regain my power here. Yeah. So I started the course of changing my name. And from the time I changed my name, I regained my power.
So
I was able to then take steps to regain my power.
So is Iwani, is that Garifuna or what?
Yes.
What it is? Okay. Okay.
Yes. It's my native name and it means soul. So I regained my power, and that's when I did the separation. It was a whole lot of death threats, but again, I was determined to do so.
Okay.
And it was some hard days, very hard days, but again, during that course of time, that's when I decided, you know what, I need to get rich. But this has always started while I was a child. That was always my call to myself. You gotta get rich one day, you know? So I said, well, since I've changed my name, let's get on to the agenda of getting rich.
Nice, nice, nice.
So what I did then, being a banker, all I thought was being rich. All I thought being rich was money. Right? So I went and I bought myself some books. How to Get Rich. A friend of mine first gave me this little book, The Secret. It's a nice little book. The Alchemist, The Secret. Yeah, that was a good beginner.
I heard about The Alchemist. I haven't read it yet, but
yeah, that was a good beginner. It started to change my thought process from all the negative thought process that I had come to be my norm, to one of positivity.
Okay.
Right? So I started to read that, and I started to retrain myself as to positive thinking. But again, in doing that, I keep it real. So we ain't gonna be too positive that we're stupid, you know? But we're gonna be very positive.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
No, we're not gonna be stupid. We're gonna be positive,
right. Positive to death.
We gotta be real.
Yeah.
We gotta be real.
Right.
So nice. I read that book. It was a good introduction. So I'd say, you know what? So that book had behind it a whole lot of references, right?
Okay.
So I said, okay, let me go find some of these references and I'll buy them because they seem good. How to Get Rich, you know, how to be there's so many good terms, how to be a billionaire. Oh, it was a whole lot of books pretty much the topic is how to get rich. But none of these books actually spoke about financial wealth. What it spoke about, what these books really emphasize on is spiritual wealth.
Okay.
And I'm like, it's not really what I wanted to hear, but let me try it. Yeah. Right? So that's when I moved away from religion and I embraced my Garifuna spirituality.
Nice.
Right?
Nice.
And I'm like, okay, let's try this method. And the more over the years, it has worked well because you learn that when you're spiritually ready, then you're able to keep what is it that you've nurtured? What is it that you've earned? Right. What is it that you've built? Because you're spiritually ready, you know? Yeah. So those books helped me a whole lot in terms of my overall view of wealth, not just being financial, but being spiritual, physical, more of a holistic approach to wealth. So that's the backdrop of where my real healing started. And I continued along that line. And as I developed the business, it was more about my Garifuna spirituality, incorporating relationship with my ancestors, speaking to them, having that conversation, asking them for consent guidance. And of course, it's with the assistance of the higher being.
Yes.
So that's what have led me and have assisted in charting my way through growing and building and improving the business we know today as Palmetto Grove Ecocultural and Fishing Lodge. So we've had a whole lot of challenges, but within that challenges, the Almighty and the ancestors had made a way for us because of the relationship I had come to develop over time with them.
Okay.
So while there's relationship with the faith that you do the work and they'll help you, you listen to them and they'll guide you. The transition from one challenge to a better space was always easy. It was even easier than anticipated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you a question on that. Did you write that down? Is that
Right.
a process or something that you're going to share with the world, or?
No. I just
Because
live
honestly,
one day at a time.
Really kind of a confirmation, which is really interesting because this morning I kind of woke up and I'm on a house sit. This is not my house.
Well, yeah.
I'm doing a house sit. But I woke up this morning and it just dawned on me like this whole violence against women is a worldwide, what's the word I'm looking for? Smite or degradation to all of humanity to me.
Yeah.
And one of the things here, and I can only speak of being Black American woman, is normalized, it's accepted.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of the women that the trauma from it, a lot of relationships between women and their daughters, and I'm sure the sons are affected as well, but especially
everyone.
women and daughters, it's just that level of toxicity. Instead of, and I'm also thinking of my own with my mother, that level of poison in a relationship from this trauma that's undealt with. And it's like this whole notion of, well, that's just the way things went or something like that. And they just brush it off instead of really processing it and getting to the point of, because that our backgrounds are very similar. Mine didn't last 10 years. Mine only lasted 2. So at early on in my marriage, it was like I met him, we got married, I had filed for divorce, had my son, and got my divorce. That might have been maybe 3 years tops. I couldn't do it. It was like, I'm gonna kill this guy. I'm not doing this. And
well, I've reached that stage, so I'm like, okay, we either gonna do it right or none at all. But we're not going through this. One of us might end up in 6 feet under or in a prison. So
yes. Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, I got to the point and was like, okay, if I kill this guy and he ain't dead and I get caught, I'm gonna end up in jail, and now my child ain't gonna have no mother or no father.
Yep. So I got to that stage.
It was like, okay, just leave. I think this world is a big enough planet. Just leave. And he threatened me. He told me if I left, he was gonna find me and kill me.
Yeah.
And
it's never easy. It's never an easy journey.
Yeah. My interesting because my father, who I've been very angry at for a long time, he basically heard a conversation or something, heard me fussing about something. He said, no, I was on the phone talking to him. And my father overheard the conversation. And in the background, he yelled, yeah, tell him he could come on this way. I got a double barrel waiting on him. I never heard from him after.
Yeah. But again, that's to show you the important role that a father really plays in covering his children. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether or not it's a female child or a male child. A lot of these abuse takes place because there are no fathers in the home.
Yeah.
And
he wasn't always right either, because me and him had some abuse issues too. But
the father presence and protection is always required, you know. It's a necessity in our lives, and many of us play the role of a father, but it's very essential, because that was what actually happened to me once, though, because my father, for the most part, was very hands off. And it was until it got really terrible, and one day he's like, don't you mess around with this anymore. And until my kid's father really saw my dad put down his feet, it was when he said, you know what, okay, I think enough is enough, you know. But the role of a father figure is very important. But and again, you find that perpetuators, the first thing they do is analyze the strength of the male figure around you. If he sees a whole lot of male that surrounds you that are weak and lack self-control, don't have direction, have a lot of vices, then he knows, that abuser knows that he has a whole lot of leverage on you. Right?
I don't know if he ever met my father. He might have met my father once. I got married at the Justice of the Peace. So I don't think my parents weren't in town. It was just a decision that me and him had made, and out of convenience, and the cost of a wedding is just, oh my gosh. But I'm thinking he might have met my father one time, but I don't think he ever did. But it was just.
But it's important for the men to man up,
It is.
It's very important, and a lot of the times, they can only do what they have seen or what they have learned. So I reach a stage where the blame game is over. I don't try to blame anyone, because the more you look at the generation before, you understand why is it that the generation after behaves that way. And unless you're really determined to break that cycle, then it continues.
It does.
Right?
It does.
And to break that cycle, it's really rough on you. Like, I find it out all the time. I choose to live differently. I'm very intolerant of bullshit. So I get it hard from my family, It's like, that aunt of yours, that sister of yours, that daughter of yours, but I'm comfortable with it.
But the thing is, your level of not putting up with that, it almost serves as a reminder for the ones coming behind you. Like, I'm sure you have nieces and stuff that when they get to that level of toxicity in the family of people who are not willing to deal with it. It's like, wait a minute, let me go over there and talk to Auntie Wani, and see what she got to say. And
so that's why I stay strong, because I'm not doing it for me.
Right.
It's like, even my kids, they tend to have some challenges with my decisions, because it's not popular. I don't run a popularity contest or shit. And they are used to people just wanting to be popular, even if it's for the wrong thing. I'm like, no, we don't run a popularity ship here. But Mom, nobody likes you, so who gives? No,
Oh, yeah.
I'm not running a popularity contest, but let's see if the actions that you've decided to take, the decisions that you've decided to make a difference for the next generation.
Right,
You know,
right.
time will tell whether or
Yes,
not the
yes.
popularity was really a good thing or doing
Yeah,
right, although it wasn't the norm,
right.
netted greater benefits.
Yeah,
You
because
know,
that 15 minutes of glory is going to wear off.
yeah,
Where is that
exactly.
in that bad
Mm-hmm.
decision that was made? How is that going to affect you 2 years from now, 10 years from now?
Exactly.
Will anybody
Exactly.
remember your name?
Yeah.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, I
Right?
have a book that I'm waiting to come out. I have a chapter in a book of a lady. She's a fairly popular actress here in the United States. But anyway, we got together. It was a book with us, about 20, maybe 25 of us in this book, and my chapter.
Okay.
And basically my chapter was about that trauma that I had when I was younger.
Okay.
And I remember one of the editors asked me, "Are you sure you want to write this chapter?" And I changed some names in it.
Mm-hmm.
But my thing is, I did write this chapter as part of me going through my own therapy, my own healing.
Mm-hmm.
But more important than that, I've done this so that other women coming up behind me, because this stuff, this level of toxicity and abuse, neglect, sexual abuse and stuff, emotional abuse in the family, this drives.
Yeah.
I know there are women
Dysfunction.
that have committed suicide over this.
Yes. It drives dysfunction. It drives poverty.
Hmm?
It really doesn't lend itself to prosperity,
No,
you
it
know?
doesn't. And no kind of level, financial,
It's
emotional, none of that.
none,
And
none, you
yeah,
know?
and
So I'm like, nope, we can't do this, right?
yeah, and
So I have a sister of mine, and she was their thing is that you don't have a man. I'm like, so what?
they said you don't
Right?
have what?
I I don't have a man, a mate. And I'm
Okay.
like, so what? Is it that
Yeah.
important to have what is important, a quality or a quantity, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I've decided that a quality,
Yes.
I'm done doing quantities. No,
Right.
quantities is done, you know?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am I am bracing myself, preparing myself for quality. And if I
Yes.
can't be the recipient of that, until I can be the recipient of that quality, then just let it be. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll just keep on doing me, becoming the better version of myself, improving
Right.
myself.
Yeah.
But until then, leave me alone.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
It's not about the quantity. It's
Mm-mm.
not about the
Mm-mm.
quantity, but more
And
about
the
the
quantity
quality and
doesn't matter
how
if you're
are you
dead.
exactly
Yeah.
and the quality of life is poor. So why
Yes.
have quantity when the quality of your life is poor?
Yes.
I can do bad by myself, you
Oh,
know. I don't need anyone to do.
that was what led me to believe I could do bad by myself. I'm out
I
of
can
here.
do bad by myself. I don't need it, you know.
Yes, yes.
So when they're like throwing their little phrases, I'm like, you know what? I don't care because I don't grudge you. I don't want to be in your foot, in your shoe. You know,
Mm,
I don't want to. I refuse and I step out of abuse. And what I'm trying to do is give you enough love, enough support that
right.
I didn't have to do the same, you know. So it's left up to you to want better for yourself and for your kids. But
Yes.
again, people's strength, people dysfunction, the reasoning for actually actually holding tight to abuse vary from one person to the other.
Yeah.
And only that person knows his or her limits.
Right.
So
Right.
you learn, having gone through it, you learn not to be harsh and not to be judgmental because we all process things differently. So what I do is just lend support, you know. I'll lend you support.
I'm
You're not
trying not
alone.
to be judgmental. You know what? It's easier for me to not be judgmental when the people are not so close to me. If I don't really know the person, it's easy for me to be sympathetic, and but people around me, I'm very judgmental.
Yeah, but when you want to be judgmental, then you have to go back to your case.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
and
Yeah, that's true.
and try to be empathetic. You know, why did I make some of the decisions that I made? Why
That's
did I
true.
stay in it that long?
That's
And
true.
sometimes you can't even give yourself a good reason. So if
Yeah.
you can't give yourself a good reason, allow that person the space to
Yeah.
heal
Yeah.
and the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Somebody
know.
reminded me of somebody we were talking. It was a lady, I forgot her name. A lady, I actually met her online, but we were talking one day online, and she said, give people grace the same way that grace was given to you. She said,
Yeah.
even if you can't forgive them, allow grace. And that cut through me like a knife. Just
You just gotta give it, because then
yeah. She said, allow
and
grace. Allow
yep,
grace. Because
you got to.
I had a hard time forgiving. I'll be honest with you. I was bitter for
Like,
long decades. And so then finally when
I
she
don't do
said,
that's one thing I don't. I did healing from I was very young. So I'm fortunate enough that like I have an older soul, and
okay,
I do a lot of things that regular people don't do at my age, you
okay,
know. Um
nice.
so it's like when I grew up with my stepmom. Me and my stepmom we weren't the best of the friends, you know. So I
Nice.
stayed away. I always stayed away, but I learned to respect her. I think one day my aunt was very intelligent. She was a very wise lady. So she said, "Why are you constantly mad? Who who does that profit?" So I'm like, "Oh, okay. Let me figure out this source of madness." Right? And really and truly, when you're not healed and you keep on having these trauma bothering you without dealing with them, it
Right.
affects your health.
It does. It does.
Unknowingly or knowingly, it affects your
Yeah.
health,
I
right? So I used to have this tonsil problem, and it was all because I was always mad,
mm-hmm.
and just mad with the whole situation about my stepmom, right? And I said, you know what? One day, let me get rid of this.
Mm.
And I just dealt with the issue in my own way to get rid of the trauma and the hurt that I harbored. And from then of I didn't suffer again of that tonsil problem, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, wow, interesting, right?
Yeah.
But again, your body, your healing is holistic. So when your
It
soul
is.
is not in sync with your body,
Mm-hmm.
your mind,
Mm-hmm.
it's what they call illness.
Yes.
You really don't feel good. Something is just off, you know?
Right. Right.
And even during the stress of my life, I suffered high cholesterol.
Mm-hmm.
And after I separated and all of that, so I know my limits. Once I start getting ill, and it's because of related stress that
Yep.
comes with what I'm dealing with, whatever it is, I
Yes.
decide whether or not I'll divorce it, you know?
Right. Right.
So I tend to study my body a lot so that I can keep that balance between my soul and my physical.
Mm-hmm.
And once it's not there and it prolongs, then I'm like, okay, it's either one or the other, me or you, you
Yeah.
know? And
Right.
then I decide that
Me and you are
we gotta
so
part
much
ways.
alike. I because I keep telling people that are different. these physical needs. Matter of fact, I had a follow up with my doctor yesterday. He was on the phone because I'm not home, and he told me I had this condition, pre-diabetes, and he gave me my numbers that I had last year, and then earlier this year, and this year, and it's going down.
Okay.
And he said,
I tell you, you're looking good. You're glowing.
Man, I had to think. I was like, okay, what happened from last year the same time? And then in March, the numbers came down. And then this month, the numbers are still going down. Of course, he's still trying to tell me I'm pre-diabetes. He's trying to get me on medicine that I ain't gonna take.
No,
but and I started thinking after I hung up the phone, I was like, so what happened? And I remembered earlier this year, I decided that it was before I took the trip to Mexico and Belize, but I had signed up for this house sitting. Is what I signed up for.
Okay.
And it was like, I don't know how this house sitting thing is going to work, but it'll get me in a different environment, in a different, just away from home, in a different environment where I can think for me. And it was that decision. I remember it because I had my doctor's appointment after I made that decision. And my numbers, and by the time I got to the doctor, my numbers had went down, but it didn't go down it didn't go down as high blood pressure. It went down as diabetes. The numbers were diabetic.
Okay.
And then it went down again the last time I went, and that was when I made my decision that I was going to come and do this house sit. And it was like, and I'm thinking, what happened? And my contention is like, I think stress causes a whole lot of illnesses. And I think at one time I had high blood pressure, and it was because I had a job that it was very stressful. And the doctor trying to put me on medicine there, and I was like, let me figure this out. And it was like, no. And it was like, this job is too stressful for me. And I went in a couple of days later and quit. I was like, I don't need this job. I don't need it that bad. Nope, I'm out. And so, yeah, I am a firm believer that stress causes more dysfunctions in your body, way more than just high blood pressure.
Yep.
It comes out a whole lot of other ways.
Yes, and I'm determined more than ever to be able to live a life exemplary to others. Nice. I have always been friends to a lot of elderly women.
Okay.
And I am very observant of the things they go through in life and their surroundings. And I've seen how unhealthy it has been for many years. But I had a wonderful, fantastic aunt who had great discipline, very exemplary. And people often used to wonder about my aunt. She was single, didn't take on anyone. And she's like, I used to hang out with her. I was like her opening. And she's like, you know what? There's several men after me, but there's no use to have a man just to have one, if that's suited and they are not the best for my well-being, contributing to for me improving and being my best self and me doing the same for him, then there's no need for us to be together. And I'm like, okay, what's this all about? Okay. But the older I get, the more I get to understand, you know? And I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
I understand what my aunt meant,
Yeah.
And it's about the bravery of being able to like your own company.
Yes.
Enjoy your own company.
Yes.
Many people are afraid of their own company.
Yes. Yes.
It's the bravery
I love
of
to
learning,
be by myself. Oh my God.
Learning to love your own company.
Love it.
And again, it's all a part of healing. So when you're healed, you're able to do all this. Right? Because you're operating from a better space. When it is that you still need that level of healing, then some of the things that healed people can do, you won't find yourself doing. So it just goes to show that that person might need a little bit more work, because healing is constant. There's always work to do.
Right.
And you just have to be determined that, hey, the next step is worth the sacrifice. It's worth the work. So
yes,
you put in the work to get the best results.
Yeah. I intend to. Just saying. Okay, now let me tell me about a little bit about your ecological village there. I'm gonna post it. I want people to see it, hear about it. Let me make sure I got the name correct.
Let me just turn on the lights a bit.
Palmetto. Oh, okay. Is it Palmetto? What? Okay, you tell us the name.
So the eco-cultural village island is Palmetto Grove Eco-Cultural and Fishing Lodge. We started operation in 2007, being one of the largest locally owned indigenous businesses in Hopkins, Belize.
Nice.
So the name Palmetto was taken from a local palm that we have. That palm is very useful, so it's something we can use as material for building, the sidings of our houses. Different construction can be done with the palm. The leaves are also useful. The seeds are used for prostate cancer. But what I love much more about the property is that the palm is that it's sturdy. So it's hard to destroy the palm, and in destroying that palm, you can actually destroy yourself. And you'd be surprised when you try to destroy the palm that it just multiplies tenfold. Ooh. So that's what we are here to do as a cultural preservation initiative. We have nowhere to go. And we do multiplication. So it's up and nowhere to go.
Okay.
So
the
we're
life
very
of activism
sturdy
can be tough.
in our foundation. Yeah, we're very sturdy in our foundation. And then the mangrove, which gives the second part of the name, Palmetto Grove. We took the grove from the mangrove. So the mangroves are again sturdy, but yet tender, and it serves as a nursery for fishes. So the fishes would come in, spawn, the young ones would stay in the mangrove roots, all to be nurtured. And then when they're big, they're released.
Okay, the mangrove is the root system.
Yeah, mangrove is that's right. That's a red mangrove. So that's what I'm referring to.
Okay.
The mangroves has its root system embedded in the water at the water banks, holding the edges together from erosion as a protector, but yet as a nursery. So we're the protector and safeguard of Garifuna culture in and around Hopkins to ensure that we share it with pride. And for people to really get a profound understanding of who we are. So we don't just do entertainment. Actually, we refrain from entertainment. We do education. So when you come to the island, while it will be fun and we keep it quite interactive, it's educational. That's the foundation of what we do. So we act as an educational ground where the idea is to nurture young minds into becoming proud Garifuna citizens. And when I say proud, it's proud because it's the essence of who you are, and to embrace that with all that you have, and live the life. So get back to the roots of becoming sustainable and self-reliant. Be able to self-govern. So we want to be able to drive a pride that resonates in productivity. It has to resonate in productivity, but not just being prideful, that is non-productive, but just nonchalant, if that's a good description of it. Okay. So as a nursery, we are able to invite guests visiting Hopkins. We're able to invite the youth, the children, and establish programs that will allow them to learn much more about who they are as an Indigenous person, as a Black Carib, as what we now know as Garifuna today. So that's the aim of us here at Palmetto Grove. Being on the island, we're located on an island, which is at the north end of Hopkins. You got to take a boat ride to get to us. So it's either a kayak or a motorized boat. And the island is 62 acres. So it allows us leverage to be able to plant and grow our own food. So we're starting, we have a herbal garden. We also have started planting food crops. So we have long-term and short-term food crops. Okay. We're starting with our greenhouse. We're doing beekeeping. So we have our apiary where we actually produce our own honey and poultry. Okay. So the idea is to be self-sustainable and to live culture. So we don't just do it for a show or business, but this is what we do on a daily basis. This is how we live, okay. Right? But again, it's sharing culture in a very dignified manner. Yes. Where we're the masters of our destiny. That's always what I advocate for, being the masters of our destiny. Yeah. Because many a times Indigenous destiny is determined by outsiders. We give it to them. Mm-hmm. Indigenous wealth, for the most part, is being monetized by outsiders, non-Indigenous people. I've seen it over and over. Yes. The UN talks about it's just hypocritical when you see many of these organizations just talking about Indigenous empowerment, or Indigenous movement, or Indigenous protection. Yes, but you're feeding a non-outsider, a non-Indigenous, monetizing the Indigenous wealth. And it's okay. They always ensure that non-Indigenous persons or entities are the one highly benefiting, monetizing from Indigenous intangible and tangible wealth. Yeah. That must stop. Yeah. So that's the thing. We have to work on stopping that. I really advocate and try to educate people again. Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Let me ask you this. So that's what we do here. Okay. Okay. When I visited, it was very relaxing. Now are you going back to how I found you? Are you going back to use that method? Are you doing your own marketing? Oh, you have to collaborate. So we had our own website, but again, that was that we lost it for some reason or the other. Okay. So we're commissioning one very soon again. And that should be done hopefully within the next 2 to 3 months. So we're starting commissioning in that in the next few weeks or so. Okay. So we should have it by, I'd say, December. Do you have a website for it? Do you have a website? It's palmentogrove.com. Palmetto Grove what? .com. .com. Yeah, send it to me in the email. Okay. And then and how will I got honey from you that I had to sacrifice and Cancun. Yeah, I couldn't put it on the flight. And that was, oh gosh, I was so what happened is I missed my flight coming back to the States, but when I got to the airport,
and I was trying to check the bag. Oh, okay. I was trying to check the bag that on the flight, and she told me I was too late. The flight had not left yet, but I didn't have that much time to get to it. So basically I missed it. But she wouldn't check the bag. And I know going
Okay.
through TSA, they pull any liquids. So when I got to my Airbnb for that night, they were, the way it was set up, whoever the host was, they were asking for a tip. So they probably had somebody come in there and clean it. So I figured since I didn't, it was more than half full. Oh, I didn't want to leave that there. I was so upset. I'll do this before I let them throw it away at the airport. So I left the honey as a tip. I said, man, whoever get this honey, whoever get this tip, woo. So now, so let me ask you, so you people order that online? Is that on your website, or is there another way for people to order that honey or whatever you offer?
The idea is to be empowering. So the idea is that we can get several cultural artisans to partner with us to open up a gift shop and an online outlet for Garifuna products. The honey and other organics that we're about to produce and are producing will be in the gift shop, available and online as well. And as our website become active, we'll have it up there. But they tend to go quite quickly because they're one of the best in the country. We have the first only coastal honey.
That was some of the best that I've had. I mean, it had flavor to it. That was really good.
That's right. Because we're on the coastline. Many of the honeys are inland honeys. So it's a different vegetation that you get and different pollen, very flavorful pollen from the fruits around. So it gives you a nice flavor. Yeah.
And a good consistency.
Herbs, right? Yeah. So we have a herbal garden, so we'd be producing some dry herbs as well very soon. Some dry fruits eventually packaged nicely to be sold. So just encouraging holistic living and living it at the same time as an example. So these are some of the things that we do, but we're well known for our authentic, educational, fun-filled experiences that you can have with us. So on the island, you can visit us for the day or the half day. You can do fishing, you can do kayaking. We have our signature Garifuna cultural and culinary tour. So that starts with a kayak ride over. You dress up in our cultural outfit. We'll give you some, we'll share with you all about our culture, different aspects of the culture, spirituality, history, family life, different aspects of our culture, our achievement and contribution to the country of Belize and different parts of the world where we at. We visit our herbal garden. You get to collect herbs. You get to learn more about the herbs. And then we go where the magic happens. So the magic happens in our cultural kitchen. And that's where we cook. And the cooking will involve coconut husking, grating, coconut milk extraction. And then we prepare our well-liked hurutu, which is a coconut-based broth flavored with herb and fish. And on the side, you have some pounded plantains and fried fish. And the beauty about what we've done over the years, my dad has about over 40 years in the tourism industry as a bartender. He's a politician, so he loves to talk. You have good conversation with him, and then I do the cooking. So I'll engage you with the cooking.
I enjoyed it myself.
It's a wonderful, well put together experience. You get to taste a whole lot of Garifuna cuisine, a whole lot of local Belizean drinks that are available. And then we culminate all that with a drumming lesson. So we get our drummers coming in to teach you all about the Garifuna rhythm, hyping up the vibe, leaving you with something good and memorable. So that's usually done from 9:30. We finish off about 2:33. You can actually dissect what is it that you prefer and like out of what we offer. So if you only like drumming, you can take a drumming class. If you like cooking, you can just do a cooking class. There's different options of activities that you can do. Beekeeping as well. So you can come, you can visit the bees with us. It's about learning.
Yeah. I like the honey, but I don't like, I tried that beekeeping thing for about 2 months.
Yeah, it's about hands-on cultural experience, right?
Yeah.
And we cater for big groups, for small groups, groups with children. We love dealing with children, sharing a hands-on experience where they're engaged. And if you want to stay with us, you can also stay. So it's a full immersion experience. We have 3 lovely but simple cabins with some private baths in them. Double beds, bunk beds, queen size beds. So, and they're lodged away. So you have privacy because they're lodged away, far distance away from each other.
Right.
You can have
right
outdoor
next
showers,
to the ocean. That was wonderful.
as you sky gaze. You know?
Yeah, that was right next to the ocean. I mean, I couldn't see the ocean.
Yeah, and the sea, we're not directly on the beach front, but you can hear it.
Yes. Now let me ask you. Okay, so let me ask you. Okay, the website you said is not ready yet. Is there?
It's open, you know. It's there, but it's not updated.
Oh, okay. But if somebody wanted to come, are you still doing it through like Airbnb, or do you have another platform that you're using, or can they email you?
So we can always be emailed at palmentogrove@gmail.com.
Okay.
You can WhatsApp us. So we have 2 WhatsApp number, 501-678-6039 or 501-661-6039. Any of those you can WhatsApp me on, and I'll be sure to respond to you within a reasonable time frame.
Okay, give me the country code again. Is it 01? What's the country code again?
501.
That's the country code?
501. Yeah, 01.
Oh, okay. With a plus in front of it, right?
And if you're dialing from the States, you gotta dial 011.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's what it is. 01. That's all I was asking. Just 011. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna post this on my YouTube channel, and I'm gonna put your email address on here in case people are interested. You sent me a flyer in one of our emails. That's a decent flyer?
I'd have to go back and check what I sent to you. I'm not sure which one.
Okay, but it wasn't a bad price. It was really nice. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But okay.
Yeah, and then for bookings, accommodation wise, you can always book directly with booking.com or Airbnb. We're on Hostel World. We're on Expedia. So if you just type up palmentogrove.com, we're on different websites, that third-party websites that you can book a stay with us. Experience-wise, we have a whole lot of our authentic Garifuna cultural experience on Airbnb. So you can visit Airbnb experiences and book the experiences on Airbnb as well.
Okay.
So we have daytime tours. We have a fantastic night tour as well. So we're surrounded by a wonderful lagoon, and it shimmers at night. So we go through the bioluminescent experience. Exploring the night
tour. Okay. I'm gonna come back. Wow. I don't think I did the night tour.
No. So we have fun for you daytime and nighttime.
Okay, nice. All right, well, I'm gonna let you go. We've been talking now for over 2 hours. Right? It's been wonderful. I enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
All right.
And
Well,
keep on shining, Miss Deborah.
all right, you too. You too. Appreciate it. I will. Tell your dad I said hi.
Okay.
All
I will
right.
tell him.
All right. Take care.
Have a good night.
All right.
Yeah,
You too.
bye.
Bye-bye.